Whatever you do, don't fall asleep during the night shift in Bio-Wing E88. Those were the last words Senior Technician Morales whispered before he vanished. Nobody knew where he went. Officially, the corporation claimed he suffered a psychological collapse and was transferred off-station. But everyone working aboard the research vessel Astrovide knew the truth. People assigned to Bio-Wing E88 never stayed normal for long. And some never came back at all. Nathan Hale thought the stories were nonsense. At 24 years old, exhausted from debt and desperate for work, he accepted the station's high-risk overnight contract without hesitation. Triple pay. No questions asked. 1 month minimum. Easy money. Or so he thought. The first time he entered Bio-Wing E88, the air itself felt wrong. The corridor lights flickered with a dull green pulse. Glass chambers lined both sides of the hallway, each filled with black liquid. Shapes moved inside them, almost human, but not quite. Nathan tried not to stare. A robotic voice echoed through the hall. Night shift begins at 2,300 hours. Employees are reminded to remain awake at all times. He smirked. Yeah, okay. But the other workers weren't laughing. No one talked. No one made eye contact. And every single person carried stimulant injectors clipped to their belts. That was the first red flag. The second came at exactly 1:13 a.m. Every monitor in the lab suddenly shut off. The room went silent. Then the intercom whispered. Subject awareness increasing. Nathan froze. A moment later, all the screens flickered back online. Everyone continued working like nothing happened. Except one old scientist. He was trembling. And quietly crying. Nathan's job sounded simple. Monitor the sleeping subjects. That was it. No experiments. No handling specimens. Just watch biometric readings and report abnormalities. But there was one rule repeated over and over. Do not lose consciousness under any circumstances. The supervisor, Dr. Kessler, looked him directly in the eye while saying it. If you feel tired, inject stimulant A9 immediately. Nathan laughed nervously. You make it sound like something bad happens if I nap. Nobody answered. At 2:47 a.m., Nathan entered Observation Room 6. Inside were 12 containment pods. 11 were occupied by mutated biological entities. The 12th contained a human child. Maybe 10 years old. Wires covered his shaved head. His eyes were closed. The label on the pod read. Subject E88 Prime. Nathan stared at the sleeping boy. Then the child suddenly spoke. Without opening his eyes. Don't let them sleep. Nathan stumbled backward. The biometric monitor exploded in static. Every pod alarm activated simultaneously. Then all 12 subjects opened their eyes at once. Even the dead-looking creatures. Nathan ran for the exit. But before the door shut, he heard the child whisper one final sentence. If you sleep, he can see you. By 4 a.m., Nathan's exhaustion hit hard. The station operated on artificial gravity cycles that messed with the human nervous system. Everyone looked half dead by midnight. Nathan injected stimulant A9. His hands stopped shaking instantly. But his heartbeat became painfully fast. Across the room, another worker named Elise kept slapping her own face to stay awake. You get used to it, she muttered. Used to what? She looked toward the ceiling cameras. The dreams. Before Nathan could ask more, the station lights dimmed red. Emergency alert. A voice echoed through the hall. Employee unconsciousness detected in Sector E88. Every worker immediately panicked. Doors slammed shut automatically. Scientists began screaming into radios. Nathan watched security footage appear on the main screen. One technician had fallen asleep at his desk for exactly 17 seconds. 17. The moment his eyes closed, something appeared behind him. Tall. Distorted. Its body bent the camera feed like corrupted data. Nobody could fully look at it. The creature leaned close to the sleeping worker. And the man began bleeding from his eyes. When security arrived, the technician was still alive. But his face no longer had a mouth. Just smooth skin. Like reality itself had erased it. Nathan nearly vomited. Dr. Kessler shut off the footage immediately. Back to work. Nathan couldn't stop thinking about the creature. That night, he searched restricted station files. Most were heavily encrypted. But one corrupted document opened halfway. Project Somnus. Objective. Establish contact with extra-dimensional intelligence through synchronized human dreaming. Status. Catastrophic success. Nathan kept reading. The entity discovered in Bio-Wing E88 wasn't alien in the normal sense. It existed in neural space. A predator that moved through consciousness itself. It could only perceive humans while they slept. The first experiments involved volunteers entering shared dream states. None woke up sane. Then came Subject Prime. The child. He was somehow able to survive direct contact with the entity. But survival came at a cost. According to the report, Subject Prime now functions as a biological doorway. Nathan's blood ran cold. Suddenly, the monitor beside him flickered on by itself. The sleeping child appeared on screen. Eyes open. Looking directly at him. "You're getting tired," the boy whispered. Then every light in the room shut off. Darkness swallowed Bio-Wing E88. Nathan heard breathing all around him. Slow. Wet. Not human. Emergency lights activated seconds later. But something had changed. Half the workers were missing. No alarms. No blood. Gone. Elise grabbed Nathan's arm. "We have to keep moving. Don't stay still." "Where did they go?" She didn't answer. They hurried through the corridors while distant whispers echoed through the vents. At first Nathan couldn't understand them. Then the voices became clearer. They were repeating his own thoughts. His fears. His memories. His mother's voice. "Nathan, you're so tired." He covered his ears. The whispers grew louder. Around the next corner, they found a sleeping security guard. Elise immediately raised her pistol. Nathan stared at her. "What are you doing?" Tears formed in her eyes. "If he dreams, we all die." Before Nathan could stop her. Bang. The shot echoed through the corridor. The guard never woke up. Nathan backed away in horror. Elise's hands trembled violently. "That thing uses sleeping minds like doors," she whispered. "And every time it enters our world, it learns." The station AI announced a full lockdown at 5:12 a.m. No one could leave E88. Nathan and Elise barricaded themselves inside a laboratory. Outside, distant screams echoed endlessly. Nathan's vision blurred from exhaustion. He had already used too much stimulant. His heart felt unstable. Then he noticed scratches covering the lab walls. Thousands of them. Written over and over. Don't sleep. Don't dream. It wears our faces. Nathan suddenly heard knocking at the door. A familiar voice followed. Hey buddy, open up. Morales. The missing technician. Nathan stepped closer. Elise grabbed him violently. No. But that's him. She pointed at the floor beneath the door. There was no shadow. The knocking continued. Then Morales' voice changed. Stretching unnaturally deep. Please. I'm so tired. Something slammed against the metal door hard enough to dent it inward. Nathan stumbled backward. The lights flickered again. And for one horrifying second, he saw dozens of human silhouettes standing upside down on the ceiling outside the room. Watching. Smiling. Nathan finally demanded answers. Elise took him to the deepest level of E88. No guards remained alive. Bodies littered the hallway. Some looked drained dry. Others appeared untouched except for expressions of unimaginable terror frozen on their faces. At the center chamber stood Subject Prime's containment pod. Empty. Nathan's stomach dropped. The child stood behind him. Barefoot. Silent. You shouldn't be awake, Nathan whispered. The boy tilted his head. Neither should it. Suddenly the walls around them began pulsing like flesh. Nathan heard thousands of whispers overlapping at once. The child stepped closer. It came from the place behind dreams, he said calmly. They opened the door with us. Who? The humans. The station shook violently. Far away, something massive roared. Not through the air. Through Nathan's mind. Blood trickled from his nose instantly. The boy looked terrified for the first time. He's waking up. Every screen aboard the station activated simultaneously. A distorted symbol filled the displays. Then came the message. Consciousness barrier failure. Nathan watched reality itself begin to warp. Hallways stretched impossibly long. Doors opened into places that couldn't exist. Some workers walked directly into walls as if hypnotized. Others clawed their own eyes out trying not to see something behind them. Nathan's exhaustion became unbearable. His eyelids felt like concrete. Subject Prime grabbed his wrist tightly. Listen to me, the child said. If you fall asleep now, it will enter Earth. Nathan forced himself to stay awake. How do we stop it? The boy looked toward the reactor core beneath the station. We burn the doorway. Nathan understood immediately. Destroy E88. Destroy everything. Including themselves. The path to the reactor was nightmare fuel. The station no longer obeyed physics. Nathan and Elise crossed corridors filled with floating corpses suspended upside down in midair. Some bodies were still whispering despite being dead. Others opened their eyes as the group passed. Nathan nearly collapsed several times. The stimulants were failing. Then they heard footsteps behind them. Hundreds of footsteps. The infected workers emerged from the darkness. Their movements were wrong. Jerky. Like puppets controlled by invisible strings. And every single one smiled with the same expression. The entity was inside them. Elise handed Nathan a detonator. If we don't make it, you finish this. Then she turned and opened fire into the crowd. Nathan grabbed the child and ran while gunshots and screams exploded behind him. He never saw Elise again. The reactor chamber sat beneath the station like the heart of hell itself. The walls breathed. Black veins spread across the machinery. And standing at the center was the entity. Nathan couldn't fully comprehend its shape. Every time he focused on it, his vision distorted violently. It looked human for 1 second. Then impossibly ancient the next. Its voice entered his skull directly. "You are tired." Nathan dropped to one knee. The creature moved closer. "Sleep." Suddenly Nathan saw memories that weren't his. Entire civilizations erased after encountering the entity. Worlds consumed through dreams. Species turned into hollow puppets. The creature had been hunting intelligent life across the universe for millions of years. And humanity had invited it in willingly. Nathan's eyes began closing. Then Subject Prime screamed. The sound shattered the chamber windows. The entity recoiled violently. The child looked at Nathan desperately. "Now." Nathan activated the reactor overload. Warning sirens erupted instantly. 30 seconds until core detonation. The entity lunged forward. Reality bent around it like melting glass. Nathan could barely stay conscious. The child stepped between them. "You can't stop him forever," the entity whispered. Subject Prime looked back at Nathan. For the first time, he smiled like a normal kid. "That's okay." Then the boy closed his eyes willingly. The entity immediately attacked him. And in that moment, Nathan understood. The child was bait. A living prison holding the creature in place. Nathan forced his exhausted body toward the escape pod chamber. Behind him, the station began collapsing. The final thing he heard before launching away from E88 was the child's scream echoing through space itself. Then Bio-Wing E88 exploded. Like a dying star. Nathan survived. Official reports called the incident a reactor malfunction. 43 personnel lost. Case closed. But Nathan knew the truth. Months later, he still couldn't sleep normally. Every time he drifted off, he heard whispers. Saw shadows standing beside his bed. Watching. Waiting. Doctors diagnosed him with trauma-induced insomnia. They had no idea. One night, Nathan finally collapsed from exhaustion. And he dreamed. He stood once again inside Bio-Wing E88. The corridors were endless now. Dark. Breathing. At the far end stood Subject Prime. Except the boy's eyes were completely black. "You shouldn't have fallen asleep," he whispered. Then something enormous moved behind him in the darkness. A voice echoed across the nightmare. "Warm. Hungry. Awake. We can see humanity now."